Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of FTB Interactions, where I've been busy cleaning up this area in front of the blast furnaces here. There used to be a bunch of machines, but I decided it was about time we removed those. Last episode we visited Aurelia for the first time. We also finally got round to setting up styrene butadiene rubber. And we also made this probably overkill automation for a bunch of different dusts. Ultimately to get blue steel dust, which has been cooking in the blast furnace for a number of hours now in between the episodes. We're up to 150 ingots, which I think is actually going to be enough for us to get this turbine up and running. So we built this photonuclear fission chamber in order to produce steam, and this is what we're going to use for the next tier of our power production. I have also upgraded our water producers here. These are very loud, and I don't think we can muffle this sound, unfortunately. So maybe we'll move this stuff, but this is just a bunch of aqueous accumulators. And they're all hooked up to this fluid interface to supply water to our ME system. I did remove that temporary one that was over there. But yeah, now that we have the resources for this turbine, let's start off by actually building this multi-block here. So to do that, we're going to need 28 of these turbine casings, which is actually only going to take 17 blue steel ingots, so that setup we made is definitely overkill. Although we will be making multiple of these turbines, I suspect. Alright, so we got the multi-block here built, but as you can see we are still missing two components here. We're missing the energy output hatch, and we're also missing a rotor holder. So let's start with the energy output hatch, and we're going to make this IV, I think. I'm not actually sure what the capabilities of this machine is. I don't know if we can actually go up to the LUV yet, but for now we're just going to make the IV one, which is some tungsten steel. Alright, so there is the energy output hatch at IV tier. The last component here is the rotor holder. And this apparently only has 3 tiers, either the HV, the LUV, or the max tier. So I think HV is actually going to be too low, so we're going to have to make the LUV one. Which does mean that we will have to make some Yttrium Barium cuprate as well as vanadium gallium cables. Both of these things we haven't made yet, so let's take a quick detour to start off with and set up the infrastructure for these things, as we're going to be using this cable as well as the vanadium gallium in the future when we fully get into LUV. Okay, so to make yttrium barium cuprate, we have to mix copper dust, barium dust and yttrium in either a mixer or a crafter. I've chosen just to add a crafter to this system that we set up last time. So I've added in yttrium dust and also barium. I did think we had barium, but it turns out we are not producing any barium at the moment. But the yttrium is actually coming from our ore processing system here. That is coming from one of the crystal blocks that we're pulverizing. And oh yeah, by the way, I did also change this up now that we have access to ender chests. I have separated the inputs for the crystal blocks and the dense ores, as before we just had them all coming in on one ender chest, and that meant that there could be a situation where, like this, where it fills up with only the dense ores and the crystal blocks weren't making it through. So I've filtered it on the other side, on the space station side, and this way we keep getting our crystals and they can be processed here. But yeah, for this dust here, we're still missing barium dust. And to get barium, as far as I'm aware, there's only one way to do that, and that is through electrolyzing barite dust. And barite, I think, is found in the nether. We do have a little bit of barite. We have 102 pieces of ore here. So I think what I'm going to do is actually just throw a stack of this in our ore processing here. And that should be at least enough until we get that. That system will be upgraded, probably today, I think. But we are also going to have to electrolyze the barite into barium dust. And to do that, I'm just going to add it to this electrolyzer over here. I'm just going to add another one on top, and we'll share the same inputs and outputs. So I've shifted the power from the back, and then we're just going to run some cable up here to power both of the machines. This first electrolyzer here, by the way, is for vanadium magnetite dust. So for our barite here, I've just added an extra item conduit. We're going to add barite dust into this interface, and that's going to be filtered into the electrolyzer. Now we do get, I think it's hydrogen from this. Oxygen. Yeah, we get oxygen from this, so we're just going to auto output that to a trash can above it. And then the outputs we're just going to send all back into our system on the blue channel. But once we get some of that barium dust, we'll then get the yttrium barium cuprate, which we have to send through a blast furnace. And this has to be 4500 degrees at MV tier. And yeah, 4500 is tungsten steel, so I guess this is where our blast furnace that we made for red matter comes in. We can repurpose this for yttrium barium cuprate, so let me wire that up actually. Okay, so the blast furnace is all hooked up, just the same, exactly the same as all the other ones. We are actually running out of channels down here, so I think we only have like 4 left or something like that. And we will actually level limit this thing. I don't want it to produce infinite yttrium barium cuprate, but we want to have a decent stock of this stuff. So I think 256 should be sufficient for this ingot. But yeah, we're starting to see the first of the barite making its way through the ore processing. And this has been electrolyzed, and then we have to set the filters here on this crafter, like so. And then we have to set this to ignored mode, and this is going to make our yttrium barium cuprate. We're just missing a little storage bus on here to be able to expose it to our ME network. And actually, we are missing channels over here. Yeah, this is a very, very big challenge of the space. I think I'm going to have to rewire down here in the near future anyway. But yeah, for now, just joining it onto this one should work. So now this is exporting all of the yttrium barium dust, I hope, into that blast furnace we just set up. Yep, and this is running perfectly. Nice. So we do actually have to wait for a decent chunk of this, as we need 16x wire, and we need 7 of that, so that's a fair bit of yttrium barium cuprate. So next up, let's tackle the vanadium gallium. This is another alloy that we have to make in another blast furnace, it looks like, with gallium ingots and vanadium ingots. Gallium can just be smelted from its dust, and we've got quite a lot of this backlogged. Same with vanadium, so we just have to set up one more blast furnace at 4500, which means we need another tungsten steel coil. And I think we may as well just connect it onto this one, so let me set that up. Now we are getting quite low on tungsten steel. Yeah, you know what, we actually don't have enough tungsten steel to make the coils for this, so let's address our tungsten issue here. So right now the way we're getting tungsten is by electrolyzing tungstate, and this we're producing in the infernal deconglomerator with endstone. However, now that we have access to Aurelia, we do have a ton of scheelite and tungstate ore. Yeah, we have 152 tungstate ore. So all of the tungstate, once that goes through ore processing, which again is backed up, so it's kind of like a chicken and egg situation here. But all of the tungstate should go into this electrolyzer. However, we're not actually processing our scheelite ore. And oh, this actually turns into tungsten ore. So that means we don't actually have to deal with the scheelite. I was thinking we will have to build another electrolyzer here. But in that case, we can actually just throw some scheelite into the start of our ore processing chain here. In this interface. Actually, maybe a stack is too much at this point. Remember, we get 64 dust per block of ore here. But yeah, this is going to be another thing that's going to take quite a long time to process. So let's skip ahead in the queue a little bit here. Put our tungstate in just to get this processing. But yeah, while we wait on both of those resources, let's also address this chrome issue. So for all of the LUV machines, we're going to need a bunch of chrome, and this can only be made in the blast furnace. We are actually getting chrome from the orbital miner, but we have to set up a blast furnace for this chrome ingot here, which is exactly what this one on the end here is for. So we're just running this at HV with cupronickel coils, importing our chrome dust, and I've told it to, well, I've got this inverted so that it always keeps 256 chrome dust available, as chrome is also used in stainless steel, I think in one of these ones down here. Yeah, it's used in this crafter to make stainless steel dust. But this will ensure that we always have chrome ingots to work with, assuming we have enough chrome dust. So the last issue, I hope the last issue anyway, is we have to upgrade our output hatch here. So before we were using the one which only gives 64,000 millibuckets, and this photo-fission nuclear controller outputs 67 millibuckets per operation. So we're going to need to upgrade this to the next tier, which is the vacuum fluid input, which is then crafted into the fluid output. But for that, we need some olivine plates. I did have some olivine, so this is okay. But we also need, more tungsten steel. So I looked at this earlier on, I did anticipate this. This is very, very expensive. So one of these we actually got from a quest reward. This takes 8 tungsten steel rings, which isn't too bad, that's just 2 ingots. But it also takes 2 dense tungsten steel plates per, which is 18 tungsten steel ingots. So each one of these cells is 20 ingots of tungsten steel. So I did already craft up the dense things that we need. So let's just make this into the last cells and then we can upgrade our hatch. Alright, got all the cells crafted up. There is our upgraded input hatch, which we can then craft into the output hatch. And now we're just waiting on all those resources, so I guess I'll be back when we're finished with that. So while I'm waiting on all those blast furnaces, I found myself out of interfaces, And we didn't quite have those fully automated yet. I was still missing auto crafting for the conversion monitor, which takes the storage monitor and then level emitter illuminated panel, which meant adding a assembler for glowstone, as well as another assembler for glass here. So I've added in a HV1 for glass to make our quartz glass as well as quartz fiber. And then I added one on the end here, just at EV tier, for glowstone, and this makes our illuminated panels. And this finally gives us fully automated interfaces. And I also did notice that I crafted an input hatch instead of an output hatch. So that was another, 8 tungsten steel that I wasted. So yeah, I guess I'll be back with the rotor holder. Hopefully. Check it out, we got the rotor holder, finally. That took a long time to get that stuff, but we finally have it. We are also going to need a rotor itself to put inside the rotor holder. And I was looking through the different options for this. There is many different types of rotors you can use, each with varying efficiencies and levels. And one of the only ones that I could see with maximum rotor efficiency was actually TerraSteel. So as you've seen, I made up a bunch of TerraSteel in our blast furnace. I think it takes about 48 pieces of TerraSteel or any other ingot to make the rotor. So we just have to put that in an assembler with a long titanium rod. And this is going to give us our rotor. And I have also hooked up the output here of steam. So this obviously generates steam. This goes out via the laser relay, gets put into the input bus of our steam turbine. And actually it already ran one cycle, so we have already some steam in here. So I think actually when we put this rotor in, it's going to start up. Yep, it did take off 1 durability. So yeah, as you can see, our EU per tick is going up slowly as the rotor speed increases. Although it is flickering slightly. I wonder if that's to do with this. So to fix the flickering on the turbine, I added this buffer of steam. So we're outputting from the photo-efficient chamber into the buffer tank, and then from that we're going to distribute that into all of our turbines, which I think we're going to stack vertically. And we also just reached the point where our rotor speed is maxed out. And if I was to guess, I think the rotor speed depends on the rotor holder. Oh yeah, don't stand in front of the rotors. So I bet if we were to upgrade the rotor holder to max tier, we would actually be able to get a little bit more out of each turbine. But right now we're producing 10,834 EU a tick, which is actually above IV. So I upgraded the energy output hatch to LUV. Cool, so now that we have upgraded power, I would like to upgrade our ore processing, as this has been a bottleneck ever since we set it up. I have actually turned off this multi-smelter for now. But we have to decide if we want to keep it at EV or if we want to upgrade to IV machines. And the benefit to upgrade the machines to IV is we're actually going to get a better chance output. So you can see on the secondary there is a chance of 14%. I think this applies at LV, and then it increases by 8.5% every tier you go up after LV. So yeah, I'm not really sure if we should upgrade to IV or just stick to EV and then just build more EV machines, because at this point we have a lot of the EV components, but the IV stuff is still a bit hard to craft here. We don't have access to crystal processors yet, and it's going to be a lot of tungsten steel doing it this way. So yeah, I think we will actually just build more EV machines, which is going to be a lot of crafting, and we're going to use a lot of resources doing this as well. But luckily we did set this system up to be easily expandable, so we just have to stack machines on top of each other, and this will increase our throughput massively on this system. Alright then, let's do this. We're going to start off with the ore washing plants, and I'm going to order another 8 of these. Looks like we got everything. The power of auto crafting. How satisfying is it when you get to this point in the game and you can just hit the button and it all does it for you? Amazing. It did take too long though. We're on day 840 here. So another thing these ore washers take is water, but we can also use distilled water, which will actually increase their speed by an extra 5 seconds. And then plus we'll get the overclocking. So I think it's probably worth to set up a bunch of distilleries to make distilled water, and then we'll use that in our ore washers. But I'm going to upgrade all the machines first of all. Alright, so I placed the 8 ore washers that we have here. But as you can see, these are not receiving enough power, which means we need more turbines. I don't know how many of these I'm going to build, as I don't know exactly how many our steam setup can support. That does also mean I'll have to make some more TerraSteel, so I may end up automating that. But I know for a fact we can definitely go for more than 1, so I don't know, maybe let's start with 5 to begin with. Alright, we got another 4 steam turbines built here on top of the one that we already had. Went with osmium rotors for them all, but as you can see they are flickering just slightly. We're just barely managing to keep the rotor speed up on the last one. I did test this, so if we break this one, these 4 will run perfectly. So I hope this doesn't cause any lag, but the EU is still going up on the last one. So I think this is the maximum we can support with our steam output. I did have to add some more water input to this thing. These actually do output a water byproduct on their output hatch, so I did actually hook up some fluid laser relays to 2 of these things, and that seems to keep this input bus full of water at all times. So yeah, I think our power situation is going to be sorted for the foreseeable future. This combined with our diesel generators here, we're producing a lot of power. So yeah, this means that we can expand our ore processing even more, and we got all these machines running here. Unfortunately, I had to put a flux point on all of the machines, as I couldn't get it to work with cable. I actually don't really know the reason for that, and maybe I'm missing something, so if you guys know about that, let me know. But doing it like this seems to power them all, and it's not really an issue building more flux points. But yeah, next let's set up the distilled water to get these ore washers just a bit faster, and then we'll see what else needs upgraded here. So I was having a look at whether we should do this in single block distilleries or in the distillation tower. And I think if my math is right, the single block is actually faster. Even though this is LV, this is MV. The overclocking still works out better at the single block distilleries. So we're going to make 4 at EV. Okay, so I was thinking about where we want to put these distilleries, and I think I'm actually just going to put them right next to the ore washers. And we'll have 2 on each side just to keep it all balanced. It's not the most efficient way to do it. We could save some flux points, but I'd rather keep it symmetrical. So we're just going to ask for water from our ME system, and then input that in the bottom. And then we'll need 2 circuits on config 0. Like so, and then we're getting our distilled water. And I think we will actually just put back in the interface. Or maybe we won't actually. It doesn't actually let me configure this fluid storage cell to partition for distilled water. And I don't really want to put this in without it being partitioned, so I guess we won't put it back in our ME system. Instead, we'll just pipe it directly from the distilleries into here. Which means that we can just hook up the conduits together. In fact, we should take out water from here first of all to empty out all of our ore washers. And then we can just hook the conduits up, and that should put all the distilled water into our ore washers. And we just have to do the same on the other side. Alright, we got the same on both sides, and now all of these ore washers are now running off distilled water. But as you can see, this has now moved our bottleneck over to, I think, these pulverizers, as all of the purified is filling this chest. So I think for this step, I'm just going to build another 4. At some point, we're just going to keep kicking our bottleneck down the road. At some point, we have to stop though, like, we only want this thing so fast, as our orbital miner is only going to be so fast. So we'll order another 4 macerators, or pulverizers I guess it is at EV. Okay, so we've now doubled our pulverizer capabilities on this part of the ore processing. But we're not quite done with this ore processing system just yet. So when I set the system up, I mentioned that I want to be able to throw any ore in here and just process it all through this one system. So I've added some extra logic to this first pulverizing step right here. Normally these can only handle pulverizing clusters of the ores, which come out of the multi-smelter. However, if we look at something like Certus quartz ore, this actually can't be turned into dense ore, and therefore it doesn't have a cluster version. So the first step has to be the pulverizing step, which gives an extra dust chance output as well as some stone dust. And before, the way it was is all the outputs of these pulverizers would all be sent into this modular storage to be sent onto the ore washers. But now that we're getting the extra dust from some of the ores, we have to actually filter that. So to do that, I've added 2 more chests as well as this trash can. The trash can is just trashing netherrack dust and stone dust on the highest priority. And the first chest is filtered with a ore dictionary filter for crushed star, which is what is going to go into this modular storage and be sent onto the ore washers. And the second chest here is for just dust regular. And this chest gets extracted into this brand new ender chest, which is hooked up to this new one over here. And this one outputs straight into the ME subnet here, which stores all of our dust regulars. I know there would have been a few ways to do this, like we could have just, for example, run a conduit all the way under to the subnet over there, but using the ender chest is a little bit cleaner and it works out better this way. So I think to accommodate this, we're going to add another 4 macerators on this line here. And the reason I ran into this was actually this quest here for Yttrium Barium cuprate, which actually gave us some cryostabilized flux ducts. But this mentions that we can actually get barite from Certus quartz, but we had no way of processing that, so yeah, I guess now we do. So now we can just throw Certus quartz in here as an easier way to get barite dust for Yttrium Barium cuprate. And also, it looks like we've gotten to the point where we've actually filled up one of these 64k storage drives, and we have a few more from a quest reward, so let's add some more 64k drives to that subnet there. And so with that, now I think we can call ore processing finished. So with our power upgraded, and also a way to generate resources through ore processing, let's look at what the next stage of progression is, which is the IV age. And the first thing I would like to do is upgrade our processors. Right now we're making the quantum assemblies, which we are actually still to pick up for the quest reward, so let's just do that. We have 4 in our system, let's pick this up. Gives us a 4 free, which is nice, but yeah, we want to upgrade to crystal processors. So there's going to be a couple of different steps in making this happen. The first of which is going to be fine niobium titanium wire, and the second is getting crystal CPUs. Everything else in this recipe we already have. We have the nanos automated. But that reminds me, we should automate raw carbon fibers now that we have more platinum. But first of all, let's tackle the niobium titanium. So to get this ingot, it's going to be another blast furnace recipe with niobium and titanium, funnily enough. So niobium then is... oh, this is also another blast furnace recipe. But how do we get niobium dust? Aha, so after some digging I found that we can get tiny piles of niobium from tantalite. And we have a little bit of tantalite dust. I'm not sure if this spawns on different planets. I actually don't remember seeing it. Looks like we got this from the nether though, so let's go through throw this through our ore processing system, which should be robust enough to handle anything. Nice, so once we get that, we have to also blast furnace this. This has to be 2750, which is nichrome and above. And unfortunately, we don't have any more space in our nichrome coil ones. So I think what I'll actually do is just build another tungsten steel coil blast furnace and just eat the extra cost of some tungsten steel up front. We are up to 369, and we are up to, well, we have thousands of tungstate dust by now, which we probably should upgrade the electrolyzer that's processing that thing, because this is very, very slow. But I think what I'll do is actually just build 2 more tungsten steel ones, and 1 for niobium and then 1 for niobium titanium. Alright, so I got the first of the blast furnaces built here for niobium dust to turn it into niobium ingots. And for us to level limit this, we're actually going to need some more channels on here, as I mentioned before. And I am not looking forward to peeking my head down here. This is going to be a spaghetti mess. Okay, I think what we can do is disconnect these 2 and put it onto this line over here, because we have plenty of free channels on this P2P. And that will free up, 15 channels on this line, and that should be enough for our blast furnaces. So yeah, I think if we extend this one over and hook these 2 up. Oh man, I hope I don't break anything doing this. I guess we'll soon find out once we overflow our system with something, or we'd run out of something in a few days. But it always makes me nervous doing stuff like this. Alright, I think I got everything shifted over here. So here we're on 31 of 32. I hope everything's still plugged in, and then here we have 12 of 32. So that gives us plenty of channels for our blast furnaces up there. Aha, so we got both blast furnaces up and running, 1 for niobium, 1 for niobium titanium, and we have level emitters on them both. Actually, did I remember to put a machine controller on this? That wouldn't be the first time I made that mistake. Yes, okay. So that is I would say the easy part of this crystal processor out of the way. The next thing we have to do is crystal CPUs, and this is going to be a few steps to do at least. First of all, we need an IV precision laser engraver. We also need to blast furnace exquisite emeralds, which we're producing, emerald plates and helium in a blast furnace. However, this blast furnace has to be 5k, which means we can't even use tungsten steel coil blocks for this. We have to upgrade to HSS-G or above. Luckily, there is actually this quest for molybdenite ore after we get to Aurelia, which gives us HSS-G coil blocks, which is nice, but we do need 16 for the full blast furnace, and I suspect we'll need more than just this anyway, so let's set up some HSS-G automation. And I remember doing this in Omnifactory as well. This is another complicated dust like the blue steel from last episode. And the HSS-G is also used in the HSS-E and HSS-S dusts. So I wonder if it's worth setting up all three of these dusts at once. This is going to be a lot of filtering, similar to this little system over here. Although we are kind of out of space here and also out of channels. So yeah, I'm not really sure where we're going to put this. This is always a struggle when you're playing this game. Is like, how much space do you leave? I've said this before, but I'm sure you guys also feel the same way when you're planning out your bases. You kind of like build yourself into a corner like I did with these blast furnaces. Okay, so I think what we're actually going to do is put it on the end of our base here. I had to rewire underneath again just to free up some more channels. But we have about 10 channels on this line here, so that's going to be plenty for us. Anyway, we're going to start off with an interface to supply everything that we need for HSS-G. And actually, we're going to need 2 macerators along with this to produce tungsten steel dust and vanadium dust, as we're producing these as ingots and we need to turn them into dust. Okay, so we got 2 macerators here hooked up with a flux point on the back. And then I've put some limited item filters here just to try and limit the amount that we're crushing down into dust, because this vanadium and tungsten steel is actually expensive, so we don't want to crush all of it. So once this interface establishes a connection, we should see some ingots show up here. There we go, and they'll go into the macerators, and apparently nothing happens because this has to be at least MV. Alright, well there's a macerator at MV then, and that doesn't mean I'll have to switch out this cable though. Okay, now we're getting power, but we have apparently no vanadium left, which means we have to throw some more vanadium magnetite through our ore processing, so I'll go and do that. That's more simple than what I thought actually. It would be simple, but we have another bit of a problem here. Our ME system has just went out again. I don't actually know why. It could be the blast furnaces are drawing too much power, but that's also meant that this is not getting enough fluid input from their ME system, so maybe we should not rely on the ME system to provide this with water, as this cuts off our steam and then cuts off all the turbines, and sooner or later this is going to run out of diesel as well. Okay, we have to be fast about this. For now I've just run a little conduit over from our aqueous accumulators just to try and get some water in this system to kickstart it. But unfortunately our turbines have spun down and we're not producing like no energy, so maybe at the moment we just stop one of these just to try and get these to build up a bit more. Yeah, hopefully once these spin up we should be back. So either it was the blast furnaces drawing too much power there with too many of them running at once, or it was that we can't actually support all 5 of these and it was just losing steam more than we could produce it and it just took this long to go out. Or maybe it was actually this thing not getting enough energy on the mechanism lasers. We are getting that message now. I didn't see that before. Yeah, I think the buffer in the laser acceptor had actually run out, which means we have to upgrade these things, but our ME system is off, so I don't have access to any of those items. I do have a spare tank of it here that we're going to use just to try and kickstart this. Let's turn this off right now. We want all the energy going into our ME system. Okay, eventually I managed to get the ME system back online. Let's first of all upgrade these mechanism lasers. Now we're running at 100% uptime. Okay, and we're building on steam. Alright, crisis averted, back to what we were doing. And I realised that we actually do only need one of these things for tungsten steel dust. So then the next step is to import all of the dust that we need for HSS-G into this crafter here. And we are actually missing molybdenum, which I think is found on Aurelia. Oh, we actually do have a bunch of molybdenite in this modular storage that we brought back from Aurelia. So we'll get some of this processed. And now that we have molybdenum, we can set the recipe for HSS-G. We just have to give this some power. And alright, there's our HSS-G dust. I think for now we're just going to leave it there. I don't think I'm going to set up HSS-E or S, but obviously there's space for it and it's going to be quite easy to do, so I might actually just do that between the episodes. But right now we have to smelt some of this HSS-G in its own blast furnace at 4500. Alright, so we have once again another blast furnace for HSS-G. I'm just hooking up the level emitter for that. And I think for this we'll just keep 32 in stock and we'll just cook it as we need it. And by the way, I know this is probably overkill to do like blast furnace for every single recipe, but I kind of prefer doing it this way. It does mean that you eat more upfront cost for the coils and whatnot, but it means that we never ever have to worry about HSS-G as long as we have the raw ingredients to make it. And same with all of the other stuff here. But yeah, this is quite a long recipe at 4:41 seconds. I mean, I guess that is at MV, but that will take quite a while to smelt up before we can get our HSS-G blast furnace. And we're also running a bit long on this episode, so I think we'll cut it here. We had lots of progress today, and hopefully next time we can start off by getting the upgraded circuits. We're not too far from these crystal processors. And actually, we're not even that far from wetwares either. We just need neural processing, which I guess is the assembly line, so maybe we are a little bit off that. But maybe tomorrow we will actually take a little bit of a break from progression after we get the circuits, just to do a little bit more building and switch things up a bit. As I know it's been a lot of Greg Tech recently, which I love, but sometimes it makes your head hurt, especially with all the dust and whatnot. So yeah, that's going to do it for today. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for some more FTB interactions.